Columbus OBGYN Incorporated has had a long and colorful history, dating back to now nearly 100 years. We date back to the time when Dr. Herman Kerper, not much known about Herman, he practiced in the early 1920s. Record has it that he was on staff at Mount Carmel Hospital in 1920. How much preceded that, we don't know. Herman practiced and is considered probably the initial member of what we now call Columbus OBGYN Incorporated. Herman practiced as a solo practitioner, being a bachelor here in Columbus, Ohio, and living with his sister, had no living relatives otherwise. In 1940, another gentleman was then considered as a potential partner, and that was Dr. Robert F. Daly. And Dr. Bob, as he was known affectionately by his patients and his peers, graduated from Ohio State College of Medicine in 1937. He practiced initially for 1 year in Newcomerstown, Ohio, and then returned for a 2-year residency at The Ohio State University. Completed his residency in 1941, came on to practice here in Columbus, Ohio. Initially as a solo practitioner and then joining with Dr. Kerper in 1943. Unfortunately, Dr. Kerper passed away 2 years later in 1945, and Dr. Daly was then practicing as a solo practitioner. 1947, Bob Daly took on his first partner since the death of Dr. Kerper, and that was Dr. Wendell Scott, who had completed his training at Ohio State University. The two of them then practiced together until 1952, when they invited Dr. Harry Ezell, who completed his residency that very year, to join them. In those days, the group was known as Daly, Scott, Ezell. No other famous monikers went with it. 1952 was an important year for obstetricians and gynecologists. It was actually the founding year for the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. From that point on, every member who ever joined our group was board certified and became members, diplomats of the American College of OBGYN. In 1957, they were joined by Dr. John Boutsellis, who had completed his residency as well at Ohio State University, remained here for 1 year and then went on because his interests were different than general practice of OBGYN. In 1960, the next partner to join was Dr. James Fulton Beatty Sr., father of our now current partner, Jim Jr. Dr. Beatty was a very strong force in Columbus OBGYN, and because of him, they had the first incorporated medical practice in the state of Ohio in the summer of 1960. In 1962, we had the addition of Dr. Bob Brannon. And Bob was a classmate and a friend of Dr. Jim Beatty, and the two of them remain lifelong friends. And this group of Daly, Scott, Ezell, Beatty, and Brannon continued to grow in stature in this community, became household names, and considered probably the top OBGYN group in the city at that time. They were then joined years later in 1971 by Dr. Ralph Ballinger, and then in 1975 by Dr. Larry Simon, in 1976 by Dr. Charles Carana, 1977 by Dr. R. Dennis Blose, Dr. Lucas, our first female partner, in 1981, Dr. Jim Beatty Jr., Jim Sr.'s son, in 1985, Dr. Sikalik, Alan Sikalik, joined in 1988. In 1990, we had the opportunity to add Mr. Mark Van Meter to our practice. He came in with a business background and has done wonderful, has made wonderful accomplishments with our practice. He has served as our CEO and our CFO, our office manager, our business manager. He has done this in what appeared to be effortlessly. Mark was so good at his position that he was made a full partner several years ago. Dr. Dory Friday, our second female associate, joined in 1995. Dr. Richard Eiderman in 1997. Unfortunately, Richard will only practice with us for 4 years, having passed away at a very young age from cancer. Then Julie Jones joined in 1998, and Dr. Laura Hauser and Dr. Harold Green that same year as well. Dr. Marcia Summers joined in 2001, and then Dr. Maddie Karup in 2002, Dr. Molly Ezzi in 2005, followed by Marko Klasovic in 2008, Jennifer Powell 2012, and then Dr. Mitch Spahn, who initially had been with us since 1991, rejoined us again in 2012, along with his partner Jennifer Powell. Also, our new partner we welcome is Justin Weprin, who has joined us just most recently here in 2013. When I talk about a wide and varied culture that is permeated with Columbus OBGYN, I can say that as a partner, I have been truly blessed to be a part of this group. Over that period of time, we are very proud that we have established the fact that 6 of our partners have served as presidents of the Columbus OBGYN Society, a feat in itself. 4 of our partners have served as department chairman of Mount Carmel Hospital's Department of OBGYN, both at the East Hospital and at the West Hospital. We pride ourselves in the fact that every member of this group has been board certified. Having been a member of Columbus OBGYN for over 40 years, I am truly grateful for the ability to have served with the partners and peers of this group. We have always been together personally, professionally. We have shared our knowledge, we have shared our resources, and none of us has ever, to my recollection, ever disappointed another partner. I hope for many years to come our legacy will live on, the legacy begun by Dr. Kerper back in the early part of the last century. And as we approach our 100th anniversary, that we are just on the beginning of what will be a great, bright, and wonderful future for Columbus OBGYN Incorporated.